In this lesson, we will learn the constant multiple rule for derivatives. But we'll first go over some basics. First, remember that f prime of x is equivalent to df dx. This is read the derivative of f with respect to x. We are taking the derivative of the function f with respect to x. In other words, we are looking at how the function of f changes at a specific point with respect to x changing. Next, the derivative of a constant equals 0. But what happens if we have a function being multiplied by that constant? So in this case, d dx, or the derivative of a constant which is being multiplied by a function, is the same as the constant outside of the differentiation multiplied by df dx. So the derivative of a constant times a function equals the constant times the derivative of the function. When we are using the constant multiple rule, we first identify the constant and then move the constant to before the differentiation part of the equation. And then all you need to do is find the derivative and then multiply it by that constant. So let's jump right in and immerse ourselves in these concepts. Say we want to find the derivative of 2x to the third power. d dx 2x to the third power. So let's rewrite the equation. We will first identify the constant. So d dx, and then the constant is 2 times x to the third. Then move the constant to the outside of the differentiation part of the equation. So the next step, 2 times d dx x cubed. Now apply the power rule to solve for the derivative. So remember, d dx of x to the n power is the same as n times x to the n minus 1 power. So we have d dx to the 2x the third power equals 2 times 3 times x to the 3 minus 1 power. So the final answer equals 6x squared. So let's solve another. D dx of 3x to the 6th power. We'll use the constant multiple rule. First, we identify the constant and move it to the outside. So 3 times d dx of x to the 6th power. Then we apply the power rule and solve. So 3 times 6 times x to the 6 minus 1 power. That ultimately equals 18 x to the 5th power. Let's find the derivative of a rational number. We have d dx of 2x over 5. So we first identify the constant. So d dx of 2/5 times x over 1. Then move the constant to the outside of the differentiation. So 2/5 times d dx x over 1 and this is equivalent to 2/5 times d dx x to the 1st power. Now we use the power rule and we multiply. So using the power rule, 2/5 times, then the exponent of the x is 1, so we have 1 times x to the 0 power which equals 2/5 times 1 equals 2/5. And 2/5 is the final answer. Let's solve d dx. Then we have negative 4x to the 8th power. First, we identify the constant. So it's d dx. Negative 4 times x to the 8th. Use the constant multiple rule by moving the constant. So we move the constant out of the differentiation. So negative 4 times d dx x to the 8th power. And now use the power rule and multiply. So we have negative 4. And using the power rule, we have 8 times x to the 8 minus 1 power. Now when we multiply this out and solve, we have negative 32 x to the 7th power. And that is our final answer. Try solving this problem. D dx. Then we have x to the 5th over 7. X to the 5th over 7. We first identify and move the constant. So we are identifying the constant and moving it. So we have 1/7 times d dx, x to the 5th power. Now we apply the power rule. So for the power rule, it would be 1/7 times, then we have 5 times x to the 5 minus 1. And then we can have two potential solutions for this. Either equals 5/7 x to the 4th power, or 5x to the 4th over 7. Let's solve another. D dx of negative 9x to the 4th over 5. Isolate the constant. Negative 9/5 times d dx x to the 4th. Apply the product rule. So next is negative 9/5 times 4 times x to the 4 minus 1. And then we solve. So we have negative 36 over 5. Negative 36 over 5. X to the third power, or 36x to the third power over 5. Negative 36x to the third power over 5. So apply the constant multiple rule for this cube root function. So we have d dx, and it's 2 cube root of x. So we first find the constant. 2 times d dx x to the 1/3 power, which is the same thing as the cube root. Now we apply the product rule. So applying the product rule, 2 times 1/3 times x to the 1/3 minus 1 power. And that equals 2/3 x to the negative 2/3 power equals 2/3 times 1 over x to the 2/3. And we're going to put it in the final form of 2 over 3x to the 2/3 power. And that is our final answer. For our final problem, let's find the derivative of this rational function using the constant multiple rule. So we have d dx 13 over x. Find the constant. So 13 times d dx (1 over x). Move the x to the numerator. So next 13 times d dx, and then we have x to the negative 1. Now we apply the product rule. So 13 times negative 1 times x to the negative 1 minus 1. So we solve. So we have negative 13 x to the negative second and then to get rid of the negative exponent we have negative 13 over x squared, and that is our final answer. I hope you guys enjoyed doing these problems as much as I do, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in my next video. Thank you.